Oh, wait, I forgot we were doing a podcast on. We were doing on The Great Gatsby, right?
Of course.
All right, we are, old sport.
Hello, and welcome back to more Films That Are Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick, Dren, Zaria. This week, we are taking a look at the 2008 film, Max Payne.
Well, here's another nice mess you've got me into. Of all the movies you could have picked, dude, I mean, Max Payne.
I picked Max Payne.
There aren't any other Max Payne movies, are there?
Not yet.
Oh, God.
There is a reboot that was announced from 20th Century Studios.
Wasn't fun enough the first time, apparently.
Exactly. They didn't get it quite right the first time, so they're going to take another shot at it.
Maybe next time they'll just cast Thomas Jane in it instead.
Probably be better.
Yeah. Max Payne was released October 17th, 2008. It cost $35 million and made $85.8 million, so not a resounding success.
But it did at least make money.
And it did okay as far as video game movies at that time, apparently.
Yeah.
It didn't do well internationally, though.
You don't say.
Speaking of which, this is yet another movie we've done based on a video game. How many is that now? I've lost track.
So we've done 3 Mario movies.
God, that's right.
Have we done any others? I'm trying to remember.
3 Mortal Kombat movies.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I feel like there was another one, though. Wasn't there another one?
Or
maybe that was it. I don't know.
I'm trying to think.
Street Fighter. It was Street Fighter.
Yes.
That's what it was.
So 7 video game movies. I guess 8 now.
8, yeah. Oh boy. And you'll probably force me to watch more. I know you keep wanting to do Monster Hunter.
I have a whole Wikipedia page at the ready.
And granted, I don't think Monster Hunter could be worse than this one. I mean,
and yet somehow it's still not the worst video game movie we've done.
Yeah. I know very little about the source material with this one, so you need to do a lot of heavy lifting with this one.
Yes.
So it's basically, okay, it's like a...
So the best way to describe the games, I'm specifically going to focus on the first game because the movie was being written when that game was released. Or after that game was released, sorry. It's basically just a playable John Woo film. It follows Max Payne, this grizzled cop whose wife and baby daughter were killed by some drug addicts, so he joins the DEA to try and find the source of the drugs, which are called Valkyr, and along the way ends up blowing up pretty much half of New York City in one massive gunfight. It's not the deepest plot. It's pretty much just the Punisher, I think, like we've mentioned before, but it's a very action-heavy game, very cinematic, very stylish.
Your description of it, though, sounds so much better than what I got in this.
Yes. The games do it
because for one thing,
in fact, after this,
for one thing, you said a John Woo movie. I'm like, this would have been so much better if John Woo had made this.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. John Woo could have made a great Max Payne movie.
But I can sort of see that because there's like those weird flying things, and that's John.
Yeah, Woo. like every now and again in this movie, there's like flashes of a John Woo movie hidden in there, but
for the most part, yeah, it's like. Yeah.
And then in terms of just other accuracies to the source material, there's a lot of character names. that were kind of lifted
Max
and put
Payne
onto other
being
characters
one
in
of
this
them,
movie.
I assume.
Yes. A lot of locations are pretty much the same, but the plot is kind of the same, not really. And then the demons, they're just not in the game. That is entirely
Is that
a
what those
creation
were?
of the movie.
I wasn't sure what those
They're
were.
supposed to be like Valkyrie demon things. They're not in the game, so...
Okay, so you're just as confused by them as I am, apparently.
Yes.
Because they kept showing up every now and again. I'm like, what? I thought this is like I thought this was gonna be like a revenge movie, you know, like The Punisher, but apparently we're including like supernatural elements or something. Or is he hallucinating it, like in the Caveman's Valentine?
I think he's hallucinating it, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Maybe if it was made by somebody that knew what they were doing. Anyway.
Exactly. Again, like John Woo.
Speaking of which, this is directed by John Moore, who also directed A Good Day to Die Hard, which is the worst.
AKA the worst Die Hard movie.
And also just a really, really bad action movie, too. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
And the remake of The Omen. So, yeah, those are...
Just a glowing career right there.
And thankfully, though, he hasn't directed anything in almost a decade.
And the last thing was IT.
It's some movie of Pierce Brosnan that I've never seen. God. Thankfully his filmography wasn't very long either. But the fact he directed I can't believe they're like, yeah, let's have this guy do the 5th Die Hard movie. Anyway. Oh, boy. So the cast, there's a little more to talk about here. This stars Marky Mark himself, Mark Wahlberg. And this came out the same year as The Happening, so...
I didn't even realize that.
Oh, poor Marky Mark. He was having a rough year.
Bad year.
I wonder if he was, like, on the set of Max Payne thinking, well, at least I have that Shyamalan movie to fall back on, and then he works on the Shyamalan.
And then he did the Shyamalan movie and went, oh no, my career.
Yeah, but, hey. The Happening. Fuck it. It is what it is. Fucking trees, man. The plants. Fuck it. Okay, there were some other ones in this like, okay, Mark Wahlberg, I'm like, okay, that's not that surprising that he's in this, but then you also have Mila Kunis is in this.
AKA Meg.
Yeah, Meg from Family Guy. She was in Ted. Jupiter Ascending. God, that was I kind of wish we were doing that instead, because that movie is at least, like, funny bad in some parts. But, like, I don't know if you've seen some of the clips of Eddie Redmayne in that movie, but oh my god, his acting in that is...
I remember.
It's ridiculous. Because they'll have this thing where he'll just be, like, shouting, and then all of a sudden he's really quiet again. Like, I create life! And I destroy it. Like, it's so stupid. It's... And he, like, just won an Oscar, too, and now he's in this, and it's just like, what happened, dude? Yeah, I think people know who Mila Kunis is. Wasn't she in, like, That 70s Show as well?
I think so, yeah.
I haven't seen it, but, yeah, those are the... Anyway. Beau Bridges, Jeff Bridges' brother.
Oh, really?
To put this in perspective, Beau was doing this the year Jeff was in Iron Man.
Ooh.
So that was where he
bit
played,
of a different career direction.
So I think Jeff Bridges was like the main villain in that movie.
Mm.
He plays the evil version of Tony Stark, because that's the villain of like every
evil Iron Man.
Every Iron Man villain is basically just the evil version of Tony Stark.
Evil Iron Man.
rapper Ludacris.
Yeah, Ludacris.
I can't believe he's in this fucking movie. Great, I think he's in like a Steven Seagal movie, so it's like, of course he's gonna accept something like this. And yeah, this is better than most Steven Seagal movies. I mainly just know him because there was like one of his songs was in Tropic Thunder. Is like, get back, motherfucker! You don't know me like that. And also, I've been seeing a lot of ads with him recently, where somebody like says, "This is Ludacris," and then Ludacris shows up. I'm like, okay. I guess when you choose a name like that, people are gonna. Anyway. Okay, this one surprised me. Kate Burton is in this, and she is Richard Burton's daughter.
Oh.
I wonder if her father is proud of it. Well, he appeared in Exorcist 2, so, I mean...
So the answer is maybe.
Richard Burton wasn't above appearing in crap sometimes, so... Chris O'Donnell is in this, and we've had him before. Because he was Robin in two of your favorite movies that we've done for the podcast.
Both Batman movies, yay!
The Joel Schumacher ones, Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin. He's also in Scent of a Woman. Another singer, Nelly Furtado. And I looked at her filmography. Apparently, this is her first movie.
Ooh, it's a bit of a rough start.
She wasn't in much, apparently. This was her first movie. Apparently she was in a few TV shows before that. Yeah. Oh my god. Donal Logue, which you probably don't know the name, but he was in Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City.
Oh, did he play the sheriff? Who did he play in that?
I have no idea, dude. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he was the chief. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I thought you might recognize him because you've seen that movie. So
it's been a while since I've seen that one.
And it's another one you'll probably force me to watch eventually. Olga Kurilenko, I might be mispronouncing that. She played Camille in Quantum of Solace.
Now she was also in The Seven Psychopaths.
Oh, I forgot about that. That is a better movie than Quantum of Solace, but it's just because I've watched the James Bond movies so much. That was like the first thing I thought of when I saw the name. Even though it's not one of the better ones. Okay, initial thoughts.
Real quick. Two things I want to mention before we get into initial thoughts
about the cast.
There's also one's about a cast, one's about another crew member. So James McCaffrey has a cameo role in this. He was the voice of Max Payne in the video games.
Oh, nice.
And then I guess a returning crew member.
Wait, so who does he cameo as?
So he is a detective named Jack Taliente. He shows up kind of towards the end of the film.
Feel like I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, no, it's a really minor role. But more importantly, this film's editor was the editor of another movie that we've done before.
Oh no. I know just from the way you said that it's not good. Is it like Crank High Voltage or something like that?
No, but that honestly would have been a good guess. He was the editor. It's Dan Zimmerman. He was the editor for Aliens vs. Predator Requiem.
Okay, that makes yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Sometimes the lighting in this reminded me of that too, but yeah, the editing in this, we'll probably get to that, but needless to say, I wasn't impressed. Okay, initial thoughts, and I'll let you start because this one's your fault.
Okay, so I went in having played the first game before, and I went and revisited the game recently. Uh, and so I was kind of in a Max Payne mood. I'd been playing Alan Wake 2, which has this character named Alex Casey that's pretty much just Max Payne, same actor, same likeness, just a different name. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I never ended up watching that Max Payne movie starring Mark Wahlberg. And so I just kept pushing for it. And you finally caved and we got to watch it. And I gotta say, that was not really worth it.
I'm glad you
It,
admitted that.
it uh, I will say there were a couple moments throughout the film where we had some like crazier action scenes or like bits of action that were nice. But for the most part, it's just this really just sort of generic cop movie. And when it's a generic cop movie, it's nowhere near as fun. Everything is just sort of drab and bland. But during some of the action scenes, you could see like the real potential for a Max Payne movie, but sadly, it just doesn't go hard enough into it. Mark Wahlberg was a complete miscast. Not only does he not look anything like Max Payne, he doesn't act like Max
I've
Payne. You
said
know, you can
before, I've seen pictures of what Max Payne looks like. I think Thomas Jane would have been
yeah,
the right casting choice, which he
yeah,
already
no,
did.
like completely.
He kind of already did play Max Payne because he was the Punisher. So, you know, and like his character in The Expanse, that's kind of like Max Payne, sorta. Where he's like a kind of this grizzled cop character, like detective character. But anyway, um,
uh, so yeah, just complete miscast. And it doesn't help that the writing isn't very good either,
no.
which is a shame
Is
because
there
the
okay? I
game.
should ask: is there anything that's really good in this?
Like I mentioned, I liked some of the action scenes. I think that there was some actual potential there.
Okay.
Everything else is kind of a mess. The writing is bad, which is especially painful because the game actually had some really funny one-liners, and Max was just a really snarky character in those, and there was just none of that snark.
Oh, there was one you sent me. What the hourglass one? What?
Oh yeah, he was trying to buy sand for the hourglass, for his hourglass, but I wasn't selling any.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Uh,
You could have
he's
made him
got
like
one
a.
where it's
You could have just made him the Punisher, but with more one-liners.
yeah, no, it would have been perfect if it was just that.
And Mark Wahlberg's
But
good at playing snarky characters too. So
yeah, you could have made him snarky. I feel like, you know how when we did the Blade Runner episode, you mentioned that the original version had Harrison Ford sort of monologuing over the whole movie, and it was just like bad and
the
not a good idea.
narration, yeah, and the narration in
Yeah,
this
I
was
feel
pretty
like
bad as well.
I feel like you needed that for this movie though, because that's like a big part of the game. Like 90% of the game's dialogue is Max just monologuing with these weird one-liners.
And also because that does give it more of the noir vibe. Because what I was getting from this
yeah,
movie is that it's kind of got noir influences and narration. That could be something you'd have in there if you do it well. I thought the narration in this sucked, so anyway.
yeah, no, but so I feel like a better writer, like maybe if they even would have just brought on
Who
Sam
wrote
Lake, the
this?
writer. Who wrote this? That's a good screenplay by Bo Thorne. There's no Wikipedia page.
I wonder why.
Let's see the IMDb.
I wonder
Oh,
why.
he wrote Max Payne. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's his only. I wonder why this is only a writing credit so far.
Yeah, if they would have gotten like the games writer to do some stuff instead, I think it could have turned out pretty well.
Why
But I
don't they
guess he would
do
have
that
been
more?
busy with.
You think they do that more often? Like have the creators of the game give a little more input? Like
Yeah,
because wasn't the Mario movie the animated one, not the one with Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins,
yeah.
the animated one? Didn't like Nintendo had like some creative control over that, right?
Yeah, like Shigeru Miyamoto worked pretty closely. And I get that at the time Sam Lake was at this time Sam Lake would have been really busy with Alan Wake. But like at least having him on to help with the writing at the very least, or at least just give Max a couple one-liners would have really helped things out. Because Sam Lake is actually a fantastic writer. And so it's such a shame going from his work to the Max Payne movie. Because it's just like a night and day contrast.
Hey, maybe someday they'll do an Alan Wake movie and it'll be just as bad.
I'm just gonna follow that up real quick. In Alan Wake 2, I guess this is more trivia, but whatever. In Alan Wake 2, they actually poke fun at the Max Payne movie.
Nice.
Basically, Alan Wake is this author. He wrote these books called the Alex Casey novels, which are basically just supposed to be Max Payne. And he mentions that the movies were just awful that they made, so they were kind of poking fun at this.
And he's probably just bitter because they didn't like consult him on this, or maybe they did, but then they just ignored his suggestions. I don't know.
I could see it, honestly.
Do you have anything else to add before I get into?
No.
Okay. So my knowledge of Max Payne is nowhere near as immense as yours, obviously. I went into this pretty blind. All I really know about the games is just the clips you've sent me, which are mostly just Max Payne's one-liners.
Yeah.
Which I wish there was some of that in this movie, but okay. Unless, I don't know, maybe I missed some. I could always go to Max Payne IMDb quotes and see what's there. I knew almost nothing about this movie, aside from a few things. I had read the cast before. I had heard it was really bad. Granted, that's not surprising, considering it's a video game movie. Yeah. I knew it had the same director as the worst Die Hard movie.
Never a good sign.
And I had seen the gif of Mark Wahlberg screaming while the background is like kind of crazy behind him. And I thought it was really funny. So, like, out of context, it's... Granted, in context, it was also pretty funny. You know, I remember getting to that moment.
No, it's...
I remember getting to that moment and being like, you know what? Fine. I'm glad this movie exists for that moment, at least. I guess the best thing I can say about this is that at least there wasn't a sequel.
You know, I think you're right.
It was so bad that they're like, nah, no, we're not doing another one. So it was kind of nice having a one-off movie again. The movie didn't make me sick, but I watched it while I was sick, which did not help things. So if I sound a bit weird during this, it's because I'm getting over a cold right now. So yeah, I went in, didn't know much about the games. After watching it, I still don't. This is one of the most dull and lifeless movies we've done for the podcast. I gave up writing notes on it in the first 20 minutes.
Oh, wow, okay.
I took so little notes on this because part of it was I didn't know what was going on in it. Like,
that's fair. There was a couple times I had to rewind because I looked down to take notes and suddenly just everything changed. I didn't know what was happening.
And also, it was giving me so little to work with. Like, Halloween Ends at least had, like, some stupid and insane things to talk about. I couldn't bring myself to care about anything that transpired in this. It was so drab. It was awful. I enjoyed very, very little of what it showed to me. It's just sound and fury signifying nothing. That's what it was. That being said, It is not the worst video game movie that we've done.
Not by a long shot.
It's the second worst.
Which only goes to tell you how bad the worst one is.
It's not quite as incompetent and idiotic as Mortal Kombat Annihilation was, but I mean, few things are, so... Congratulations, Max Payne. Oh, is that why it's called Max Payne? Because it's painful to watch?
Exactly. It's like the one quote in the movie.
Oh, what was it? It was like, I don't believe in heaven, I believe in pain.
I was gonna say, what has Max Payne done except for bring misery to everyone?
I forgot about that. But those do feel like stuff the Punisher would say, honestly. Now, okay. What do you want to guess Leonard Maltin gave this?
He actually watched this?
Yep, he did.
Oh my. I'm gonna say he gave it a bomb.
Surprisingly, that's not correct.
Oh no.
I was
what did
shocked.
he give it?
He gave the fact he gave this something higher than a bomb is already absurd. He gave it 2 out of 4 stars.
What? How?
I don't know.
That can't be real.
All he said was, good-looking film falls flat dramatically, which, okay, yeah, that...
I guess.
It definitely falls flat dramatically, that's for sure. Okay, so the story, I mean, you kind of went over this earlier, but what I gathered from this movie, as a person who's never played the games, Max Payne is a cop.
Yes.
And for a while, that was about all I could figure out with the plot. And, like, he has to solve a crime or something. His wallet was at a crime scene. And then we learn around the middle of the movie that his wife and kid died or something. So at that point, I was like, okay, so he's just the Punisher, basically.
Yeah.
And honestly, I enjoyed all 3 of those Punisher movies more than this. All 3 of them.
I will say that first Punisher movie felt closer to the Max Payne games than the Max Payne movie does.
Which one?
It's bad.
The Dolph Lundgren one?
The Dolph Lundgren one, yeah. Which is bad, because even that doesn't feel similar, but it feels more similar than this.
But, like, Dolph Lundgren, I assume, isn't anything like Max Payne.
No. Max talks a lot more.
Again, if you're gonna, like... Well, yeah, none of the Punishers do, if we're being honest. But, like, if you're gonna cast one...
True.
If you're gonna cast one of the Punisher actors, again, I feel like Thomas Jane, like, would fit, you know? Just, like, looking at pictures of him and stuff, you know, he looks more like Max Payne than Mark Wahlberg does, but anyway... Like, Mark Wahlberg's not, like, the worst possible choice, but not the best.
I guess you could technically do worse, but, like, you would have to try to do worse.
You'd have to cast...
It's just...
Who would be worse? Like...
Michael Myers. Mike Myers.
Or Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Okay, so pros. Not that there's very many.
I'm gonna start with probably the biggest pro that I have for this movie.
What?
So I watched the Blu-ray copy, which meant that there were trailers before the movie. There was one trailer. There was a single trailer before the movie. It was for the 2008 film Valkyrie, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, is that the Tom Cruise movie where he tries to kill Hitler?
Yeah.
I forgot about that movie.
And I have a note on the trailer. They were playing Zepp's theme from the first Saw movie in the trailer for Valkyrie.
That's weird.
Yeah, I noticed that, and it was like bugging me, and then I listened to it, and was like, oh, it's Zepp's theme, and I watched it again to make sure. It's such a weird thing. I don't know how that happened.
They do that with a lot of movies though, where they'll just use like music from other things. Like Canon used to do that a lot with their trailers. Hell, do you remember the old Disney opening with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves music playing?
Yeah.
Even though that's not a Disney movie or a Touchstone movie. Anyway. So your positive is the Valkyrie trailer looked interesting.
Yeah, and it was playing the Saw theme, and I thought it was kind of funny since the Max Payne movie has some loose connections
I
to
don't
Norse
remember
mythology.
much of that movie. All I remember is Tom Cruise tries to kill Hitler or something.
I mean, that's really all you need for
And
a good movie.
I didn't buy him in the role because playing he's playing a Nazi, like who's trying to assassinate Hitler. It's just like the Tom Cruise, what? Anyway.
Oh, Tom Cruise is a Nazi. Interesting.
Is he in real life? I don't know actually. I mean he's a Scientologist, so that's pretty bad, but your positive is, oh yeah, there was like a trailer that I kind of liked. Okay,
I've got a couple more positives, but I just thought that was something funny. The credits look kind of cool with all like the guns
I don't
that
remember
are like
actually,
firing. They show you the pieces of them.
but I will say this: like there were some stylistic choices that I thought were okay. That's kind of interesting. Like
Yeah.
like they tried to make it look like a modern film noir. You know, with like the moody lighting and camera work and stuff. And a lot of blue. If you like blue Daba D, this movie has a lot of that.
So there's a lot of blue. There was one scene where Mila Kunis was talking to some other gang members, and for whatever reason, the leader of
Mila
this other
Kunis
gang
is in
has
this
candles
movie.
everywhere. Yeah. He has like these candles everywhere, so the shot's yellow. I thought that looked interesting. But I would say the biggest pro that this movie has are its action scenes.
There were a few that were okay. There was like one towards the beginning where he's like shooting bathroom stall doors open. I was like, okay, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And there was like one towards there were like some towards the end that I was like, okay, that was okay. You know, it wasn't like amazing, but I was like, I mean, at least
it's something.
It's something, you know.
And so I thought the office scene was, or the office fight scene was probably the best one, just because there was stuff flying everywhere. Max is running down this corridor, and you see all the windows shatter behind him as people try to shoot him. I thought that was kind of fun.
Again, it would have been great though if it had been directed by somebody like John Woo, you know.
Yeah.
Or like hell, I don't know. Like there's probably plenty of other John McTiernan or something. You know, just any action movie director that's made good action movies, because this guy has not made good action movies or even good movies for that matter. But anyway.
And anytime it used like the slow-mo gun scenes, I thought it was kind of fun. Like there's a scene in a warehouse where Max like does a backflip and shoots a shotgun.
Speaking of slow-mo, what would this movie have been like if Zack Snyder had directed it?
I'm gonna hate what I'm about to say, but I think that
it would have been better,
a little better. I think it would have been better just because, not by much, but it would have been more stylized, which I think would have helped it actually. Which is a weird compliment to give a movie, is to say Zack Snyder would have done better.
Also, the acting and dialogue would have been so over the top at points that it would be kind of funny.
Maybe Snyder is meant to direct a Max Payne movie. I don't know.
He wasn't meant to direct a Batman or Superman movie, that's for sure.
Or a Star Wars movie.
What are you talking about? That was Seven Samurai in space. Also known as Battle Beyond the Stars. He fucking ripped off Battle Beyond the Stars. Okay, where were we?
I was just talking about how I liked some of the action scenes.
Yeah, there were a few that were okay. Like towards the end, the last 20 minutes had a few entertaining parts at least, because basically it just became a dumb action movie and stopped giving a shit.
Yeah, so Max takes this drug called Valkyr that shows up throughout the movie that lets you see demons, I guess.
Yeah, what was there? Yeah, I was like confused by that. I was like, who are these shadowy bird people that chase them around? Like, is this what? Like,
so I'll say that drug is in the games and it makes you hallucinate, but it doesn't make you hallucinate the demons. It just makes Max realize he's in a video game, in the actual game.
oh, okay. What? So is that the point where Max realized he's in a movie?
I guess. And that's why he was able to kill everyone, because he knew it was a movie.
It just turns into In the Mouth of Madness. It's like
pretty
In the Mouth of Max Payne.
Oh no.
Max Payne kind of rhymes with Sutter Kane, so yeah.
You're right.
Do you play Max Payne?
Have you ever played Max Payne?
It's like a video game that drives people insane or something. Okay. I thought some of the set design was okay.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the locations, yeah.
There was like this office with a picture of an eye on the wall, and I was like, okay, that looks kind of cool, you know? That's basically this movie. It's just like most of it was shit, but occasionally I'd like look and I'd see something and go like, okay, that was kind of cool for a few seconds, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of like a Zack Snyder movie.
Pretty much. I will say I do like the snow at different points throughout the movie. They get a little creative with it, like at the very end when Max kills Beau Bridges. It does the slow-mo shot where you just see the snow hang in the air as it like revolves around his gun before he shoots him. I thought that looked pretty cool. A little bit, too little too late, but
that's what the ending of this movie felt like. It was like, this is too little too late. I had to suffer through like an hour of nonsense to get to
an hour of a bad detective movie.
Yeah, it barely felt like a detective movie either. It was like, okay, what? I was also shocked if I had to look this up, but I was like, wait a second, is that who I think it is? Uncle Jack from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in this.
Really? Is who?
I don't know. He was just this... But you'd recognize him if you saw him. I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
Andrew Friedman.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I think I vaguely remember seeing him.
Yeah. I could not believe he was actually, yeah, he's Charlie Day's uncle on the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The guy with the big fake hands. Who's a terrible lawyer. But yeah. Which I wish he would just play that character in this. That would have been funny at least. There's like two women kissing for no reason, because gotta include lesbians in here.
Yeah.
For a few seconds.
Right during that scene is when the demons first show up too, I'm pretty sure. So it just adds to the confusion of that scene.
Yeah, the shadowy bird people, I don't know. I thought the acting was like... It wasn't like great, but it was adequate for the most part. Like, it wasn't like outright terrible, which surprised me a little bit. Like, Mark Wahlberg, like, he was okay, Mila Kunis was okay, most of them were just okay. Like, they didn't do anything
Okay.
terrible or anything amazing, but, you know. Like, Beau Bridges, you know, he was okay, although I was, like, going, I wish Jeff Bridges was in this instead, but, you know, you're fine. I thought the music was okay. I thought, like, it was,
Yeah.
again, it wasn't anything amazing, but it was fine, like...
I will say most of there are some things that were adapted pretty faithfully to the game. It's not totally inaccurate.
I knew you're gonna have to carry this episode, because
yeah. So Max, I'm gonna save to talk about Max himself until we get to the cons, but a lot of the minor characters, like basically anyone in like the mafia or that's part of the Aesir Corporation, they were fairly accurate. Most locations were accurate. Like they're actual spots in the game, like the subway station that it starts in. That's the first level of the game, actually.
Was there anything else about the games that
was accurate? That's a I guess Max's backstory where his wife and child are killed is accurate. But that's about it.
That's
that
in
is
the
about
Punisher.
it.
You could call the Punisher an accurate Max Payne adaptation.
Yes. Yes.
Although the Punisher's like what? Like he's what? Former FBI or something, or like
It's kind of changing because I know he was former military.
Was it the CIA? I don't know. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
I guess it depends which, like, I'll look up the 2004 one for now. I assume that one. FBI, yeah, he's FBI in the 2004 one.
In the 89 one, he was Marine. I think in the TV series, he was Marine.
In Warzone, he was part of Force Recon. It's like military, I guess, military intelligence. Anyway. Whereas Max Payne is a cop. A dirty cop, I guess. I don't know. He's not that interesting in this movie, huh?
No, he has a bit more depth in the games, and then what they do with his like similar character in Alan Wake
It's sad that I had this as a pro, though. Mark Wahlberg's acting here was better than his acting in The Happening.
What movie do you think he cared more about, this or The Happening?
Well, I feel like probably this, right? I mean, with The Happening, he just looked confused and embarrassed the whole time. And he just didn't know what he was doing. Here, he's like... I feel like with this one, it was more just... He just kind of shrugged and went along with it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he at least... Like, he fits this part better than his part in The Happening.
That's true.
Do you remember what he's like in The Happening? He's playing, like, this awkward science teacher.
He felt barely human in The Happening.
Like, a lot of people in that movie did. But him, like, I was just like, wow, I can't see Mark Wahlberg as this character at all. I think I mentioned during the podcast that, like, after watching The Happening, the website I was on, it, like, showed afterwards one of the next movies that popped up was a Paul Rudd road comedy.
Yeah.
And I looked at that, I'm like, Paul Rudd, you could have cast Paul Rudd in The Happening instead. That probably would have fit better. Because then, like, because Paul Rudd seems more like he would fit the role of, like, an awkward teacher who sometimes says goofy stuff. You know, that doesn't really fit Mark Wahlberg, but...
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the shot I mentioned earlier is where Marky Mark gets out of the ice and, like, does a roar.
You should put that gif in the video. It's It's pretty fantastic.
I was waiting for that shot after seeing the gif of it, like, because I've seen that gif in like a lot of places. I was just waiting for it, and it lived up to my expectations. Because just the expression on his face is pretty funny in the background, but also the sound he lets out, the roar he lets out, is hilarious. Like,
And the whole time the sky's opening up, there's demons coming out for no reason.
I wish this movie had more stuff like that in it, because then it would have.
Like, can you imagine if this was at the beginning of the movie and it set the tone for everything else? Of Mark Wahlberg just going on a rampage, killing cops, criminals, and businessmen. How awesome that would have been.
If it actually went through with it, yeah, that would have been.
Yeah.
Just putting it at the beginning and then just leaving the rest as is, it would just make it more disappointing, because then you're just like, where is the stuff like that? And my last pro, at least there wasn't a sequel. I struggled to come up with pros for this movie. I really did.
Is it time to move on to the cons then?
Yes, what do you think? Do you have any? I assume not.
No.
Let's just move to the cons. Okay. Mark Wahlberg's narration at the beginning. It's
bad.
It was bad. It was like, you know, if you remember Harrison Ford's narration from the theatrical cut of Blade Runner, yeah, it's about as boring as that. Like, just... And again, maybe Zack Snyder should have directed this. Maybe he would have gotten a more lively performance from Marky Mark. And like, what was the line? It was like, I don't believe in heaven, I believe in pain.
Yeah, I don't believe in heaven. I believe in pain. I believe in fear. I believe in death.
What would have been funny is after he said pain, if the title card just popped up.
And I will say it's a really disappointing start, because I actually really like the opening line to the video game.
What was that?
So here, I'll post it, but I'll also read it. They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark on everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and it was over. Because the game starts like at the very end of the story, and then like the whole thing is pretty much a flashback.
Yeah, like a lot of film noirs. A lot of film noirs do that, yeah.
And like, that's like so much better than the crap we got in the movie.
Yeah, it's like, okay, Mr. Punisher. Some of the CGI didn't age well.
No.
There was a part with a guy running through a subway track, and it looked like something from The Amazing Bulk.
It was pretty bad.
It was just like, yeah, he's clearly not in that subway track.
Yeah.
Hell, imagine if this whole movie was like The Amazing Bulk.
That might have made it better. At least more fun to watch.
The Amazing Bulk's pretty painful to watch already, but yeah, it's... How would Mark Wahlberg have handled that, do you think? Some of the acting was like so bad. Like there were a few moments where it was like so over the top that I laughed at it. It was just, what?
Everyone kind of just hates Max Payne for no real good reason throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the beginning, like, none of his coworkers like him. His former partner's wife, like, chews him out for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, that was the singer. That was Nelly Furtado's character, yeah. Which kind of reminded me of that scene from Jaws where...
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was even referencing that too, or the...
I think it might have been, because it's actually kind of... It's a pretty similar scene.
Yeah. Except, obviously, it was done way better than that, because, I mean, fucking hell, Jaws is...
Yeah.
I mean, Max Payne is like, how many people remember the fucking Max Payne movie? Whereas Jaws, that's like... the first summer blockbuster is kind of a big deal. It was directed by Spielberg. Have you heard of Spielberg?
Never. Is he as famous as John Moore?
Maybe. The characters were pretty one-dimensional. I just was not invested in anybody that was in it. It seemed like it was just character shows up, says something, and then they just move on, and like they didn't really say
and then it's like
anything.
a coin toss as to whether or not the character dies at some point in the movie.
And they weren't really saying anything interesting or
No, it was really generic dialogue. It's just
and
kind
really
of
generic characters. I didn't. 12 minutes in, I had no idea what was going on. I was lost. It was like a quagmire trying to get through that dialogue. It felt like a lot of the beginning of it just felt like Olga Kurylenko was flirting with Mark Wahlberg for some reason. Like, why? I guess just as an excuse to see her in her underwear. I mean, you get that.
I guess.
I didn't know what was happening. Like, what is happening here? And it didn't help that the camera work and editing was so disorienting, and because it has a lot of fast editing during like fight scenes that just is so annoying, and the camera work, it's just like just shake that camera for all it's worth. That'll make the scene intense and give everyone a
headache. It gets really bad towards the end because they start they have shaky cam while they're also zooming in with the camera, and so it's just super disorienting.
I know, yeah. It was kind of reminding me again that you asked me to guess who edited this, and my first thought was the people that did Crank High Voltage, and there's some similarities there.
That was only a year after this movie, huh?
Yep. They cast Mila Kunis as a Russian assassin, which was a strange choice.
Yeah.
Although she does, I had to look it up though, she does have Russian ancestry, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, she speaks Russian. I think she's done it a few times on Family Guy, actually.
But as an assassin, that's... Okay. The beginning, I wrote in my notes, the beginning is very boring, and then later I wrote, oh wait, it's not just the beginning, the whole movie is boring.
It's the whole movie. And that's its, like, worst problem, is that it's a slog to get through. It's just nothing's happening.
You mentioned the game's pretty, like, action-packed, it's like John Woo, and I'm like, if this had been just, like, crazy balls-to-the-wall action, you know, that might have been kind of fun to watch, but no, it's
and I'll say I think within like the first 3 minutes of the game starting, you're shooting, you're fighting. In this, it takes so long because you have that opening like bathroom fight scene, and then nothing for almost a whole hour.
It's so weird, yeah. You'd expect this to be more like one of the Punisher movies or something, where it's just he just goes out for revenge, kills a fuck ton of people. You know, like. Again,
and that kind of leads into another point about this movie is just it's not paced well.
No, it's not.
It spends way too long trying to build up a mystery that it solves way too fast.
And I didn't understand the mystery. I just didn't know. I didn't know what was going on the whole time. Like, I literally didn't know what was going on.
Because the central mystery is Max is trying to figure out who killed his wife and daughter.
That's and they don't reveal that until halfway into the movie, which I'm like, wouldn't you...
It's a little after halfway, and then it's just wrapped up, like as quick as they can.
Why would you take that long to reveal that in the? That should be like one of the first scenes, you know, right?
Yeah.
It shows his motivation, and also it gets you like pumped to like for him to get revenge on people, you know. But instead, the whole time you're just like, wait, who's he going after? Why? What? What is he looking for? Oh my god. I was like watching this on my computer and I got so bored of it that I was like in other tabs, like just doing other shit. During like, especially during like the middle portion of the movie, because like
Oh
nothing
yeah,
was
because
happening.
they're just talking, but the dialogue's not good enough for
It's
you to
just
care.
it was a lot of just boring scenes of people talking, and the action scenes, a lot of them were pretty boring as well. It didn't help they were poorly edited and poorly shot. So
Yeah, yeah.
another thing I was surprised by, and I didn't realize this until watching it, this is only PG-13. Going in, I thought
Yes,
this was an
the
R-rated movie. I thought this was an R-rated
so
movie, and I was disappointed like
yeah.
at how tame it was. Because remember, you can say what you want about the Punisher movies, but they go pretty far out with some of the violence,
Yeah.
especially in Warzone. Warzone is ridiculous with how over the top the
Now,
violence is, and like the game aren't the games like.
the games are very over the top violent.
Then again, they did the same with Mortal Kombat from the 90s.
Yeah. And I just something to add on to that. So I mentioned I have the Blu-ray of this. It's the unrated director's cut.
So it does have the
Um,
unrated cut. Okay. Did you
yeah.
watch the? Which one did you watch?
I watched the unrated director's cut, and honestly, it still feels kind of PG-13. It's like it's still not like that violent at all. It's just maybe the blood's like a bit more pronounced, but that's really it.
That's yeah. The unrated cut of like Die Hard 4 is kind of like that, where it's like yeah, there's like a little bit of blood and maybe a few more f bombs, but it's really not that much of a difference, you know. And it's like blood that was CGI'd in too, so it's like okay. So it's probably like okay, maybe it's like a slight improvement. I can't imagine it being that much of an improvement.
Yeah, and apparently it's only 3 minutes longer, and I'm not entirely sure what they even added.
Oh, did they add a scene where Max Payne gets raped in prison or something?
Yes, it's the Joker 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Max Payne 2, Folia Do. That should become the new Electric Boogaloo, a Folia Do, or something like that. Or a Texas Blood Money, or something, I don't know. Like, even if it doesn't make any sense. Like, Ice Age 2, Texas Blood Money. There was this part where he like spun around. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do.
It looks like they took Mark Wahlberg and inserted him into footage from the game because he like spins around or something. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It looked so goofy.
Speaking about Goofy, I think it's time we talk about the Valkyries or the demons or whatever you want to call them.
What the hell were those? Okay, what?
So basically throughout the movie there are these weird giant shadowy winged creatures that show up. Only people who are taking the drug Valkyr can see them. So I think it's insinuating that they're all hallucinations.
What the hell was
But
from the caveman's Valentine? What the hell were those things
yeah,
called that he would hallucinate?
the seraphs, the moth seraphs.
Yeah, maybe it's just the moth stairs. Maybe it's Mothman. I don't know.
Maybe.
Mothman is in the Mark Wahlberg movie. I didn't know what the hell was going on with that, and then you said they're not even in the game. I'm like, okay, that's good. At least I'm not the only one that gets confused by those things because they just show up randomly for.
Yeah, and I will say I do like I like them in one scene, and that's when like the Valkyr junkies and like the rundown apartments, and he falls out the window, and it looks like the one's just like dragging him out. I thought that was kind of cool, but it's just their inclusion makes no sense.
In the games, you mentioned that like Max Payne like takes drugs and starts hallucinating, and so there's so many things you could do with that.
Yeah, And there's a lot that they do in the games. It becomes like psychedelic and almost like more like a horror game when you take the drugs. It'd be a lot better than what we got.
Fear and
Which
Loathing
was
in Max Payne.
yes.
We can't stop here. This is Mothman country. Or it could be like how going back to Crank, you could just make it like Crank, where he's just tripping out on all these drugs and he has to kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, it would have been a lot more fun than just weird demons that don't add anything.
Or you could make it like a Scanner Darkly. I don't know. Like, just do something with it. Make it weird and trippy. That would at least be kind of unique for a video game movie.
Yeah.
You know? There was I don't know if you made it this far, but there was a post-credits scene.
I didn't see the post-credit scene, no.
I only knew about it because I was like reading about it on Wikipedia. There's a post-credit scene that tries to set up a sequel.
Ooh.
So you know it's gonna be. Basically, Max Payne goes to a bar. Mila Kunis is there. She hands him a newspaper about Richard Burton's daughter, and then the movie ends.
Interesting, because so the character she plays is Nicole Horn. She's the main villain of the first game.
And she's barely even in this movie.
Yeah. And I guess spoiler alert for the game, but Max kills her by dropping a radio tower on her helicopter.
This movie should have had more stuff like that. I mean,
I know. It's so lame comparing the movie to the game.
Like every description you've said of the game, it sounds so much more interesting than this, and I'm like, how did they fuck it up? But yeah, they try setting up a sequel. Thankfully, it never got made, and the world is a better place for it. Okay, overall thoughts.
Hold on. I have one last con.
Sorry, I jumped the gun a bit. Okay, what was your last thing?
There is one last thing that is not accurate to the game that I would like to bring up. In the game, Max heals by taking painkillers.
Oh yeah, I think I was reading about that a bit.
And so in the game, you're basically chewing on painkillers like they're candy throughout the whole thing. Max doesn't take a single painkiller throughout this game.
Throughout this movie.
Throughout this movie, which I feel like would have been really funny. Just watching Mark Wahlberg swallowing an entire bottle of pills at a time, like every 5 minutes.
And also, again, you could have made it kind of like Crank, where this stuff is like making him like, anyway. Yeah. That's it, I guess. Unless, did you have anything else?
No, I think it's time to get into overall.
You know what? Actually, I think I know why. I think I know why Marky Mark wasn't taking painkillers on this movie.
Why?
It's because he was using them all up trying to get through filming The Happening. Okay. Overall thoughts.
It's not very good.
You know my thoughts. It sucked. It was boring. There were a couple parts I laughed at, like the that roar gif,
Yeah.
And the last 20 minutes where the action kind of ramped up, it was sort of fun, but aside from that, I regret watching this. It was a murky mess. I had to think about it. I think this might be in the top 10 worst movies I've had to watch for this podcast.
Wow, that's low.
It's not in the top 5, though.
I don't think it's in... I don't think it quite makes the top 10 for me. Like, it's not good, but I feel like we've done a lot worse.
It's not as bad. It's just because it's so boring and generic. I mean... and awful. Like, there's really just not much good about it. But I almost put it in the top 5 worst, but I was like looking at the list and going, you know what? It's not as bad as 2020 Texas. It's not as bad as 2020 Texas Gladiator, so it has to be lower than that one at the least.
Yeah.
But it was less enjoyable than Army of Frankenstein's, for example. Army of Frankenstein's was at least funny in a stupid way during a few parts of it. It was painful to watch for a lot of it, but it was a little more engaging. We've done enough bad movies now that Army of Frankenstein's is barely in the top 10 worst now.
That's sad. That's shocking.
But yeah, fuck this movie. Fuck you for wanting to watch it. It was bad, and I don't know what else to add. Unless, do you have like a relevant Max Payne quote that fits?
Give me like 10 seconds, and I'll, you know, actually, no, I already said the quote. I already said the quote.
Which one?
And I already forgot how it goes exactly. What has Max Payne done? Except for bring misery to everyone.
Yeah.
It's honestly the best way to sum up this movie.
Apparently Max Payne was trying to become the next Dr. Seuss with his rhyming. Was that line was in the movie? I don't remember.
Yeah, that was a movie line. That's like what the widow says to him.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, IMDb. It's not quite.
Yeah, no, there's more to the line, but...
What have you done, Max? What has Max Payne done, except for bring misery to everyone who ever cared for him? I wish it was the one you said, though. That would have been a lot funnier. Is there anything else you have to say about Max Payne?
I honestly don't think. I just don't.
Okay,
watch it.
let's wrap this. Let's wrap this up then. Okay.
Next time we will be watching Star Crash with a little cameo from another shorter film.
Yeah, Hardware Wars. I mean, at least our next movie is funny bad. So there's that.
Yeah, we'll have that going for us, and it's got the Hasselhoff.
Yeah, Star Crash and Hardware Wars, because why not? So that should be fun. Well, for me at least. I've seen them before. They're both on Tubi right now. They're easy to find.
That's good.
Okay, so until then...
Andy Griffith.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.